season. I ball every day, every season. I ball every day, every season. I ball every day, every season. I ball.
Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. This is Deshaun Fauntleroy with iBall Media. You're listening to and watching The Roster. Today I have Jeremiah Campbell on the show. Jeremiah has been at Tiffin University for the last 4 years. He recently graduated. He's just entered the transfer portal. I'll let you know where he's going to go in the coming segment. Today we're going to discuss goals, how to overcome injury, him overcoming an injury, him reflecting on his high school experience. We'll discuss advice that he's going to give to some of you young athletes and young coaches out there. And finally, we'll end with the fourth quarter. We'll come with a surprise question for Jeremiah. So, Jeremiah, I want to thank you for coming on the show. Tell us what school you've been at. And, I just told him Tiffin University. You just recently graduated. Congratulations. And what's going on with you right now?
Right now, like you said, I graduated from Tiffin University. That was the first school and one of the only schools that offered me straight off the bat coming out of high school. I graduated with a psychology major, so that was pretty big. I got to learn a lot of stuff and how to work with the mind and how people think and stuff like that. So as of right now, I just been training, kind of waiting for this big opportunity to enter the grad portal. There were a lot of schools that reached out to me.
What schools?
So it was good to see. I had a few D1 schools that reached out. Some of the big ones that stood out to me were like Middle Tennessee. So that kind of shocked me, saying, wow, I have the ability to play anywhere. And then I had the top two Division II schools, one being Valdosta State and the other was West Florida. West Florida just won the national championship last year. So for them to reach out and want to offer me to come play for them was big. And then Valdosta winning the national championship the year before was also big and reached out and they wanted me to come play for them. So I decided to take my talents to go down to Georgia, somewhere new, with coaches that I already had a previous past with who were at Tiffin University. They were the coaches that brought me in my freshman year. So it's good to kind of connect back with those guys and, try to go get another championship.
And it seems like you already have a relationship with your offensive line coach. Tell us about that relationship. I think he played at a Big 12 school, and you've been able to glean a lot of knowledge as far as the pro game from him.
Yep. From him, Coach Allgood, he was definitely a big impact on my life. He played college ball at Oklahoma for a few years and then ended up GAing and came to Tiffin. I personally believe that he was the one that kind of got me started on this path of being, a top-tier left tackle and seeing that I had the ability to play there. Coming out of high school, I was a defensive end, weighing about 245, first team conference, all that. Went to, Tiffin.
Where'd you play high school at?
Gahanna Lincoln. It's in Columbus, Ohio. It was one of the Division I programs out there. So, football is real big in Ohio. A lot of people really believe football out there. So I kind of love that, atmosphere and being able to be in that environment. So being a defensive end and then going to a college, university, being told we want you to play left tackle, we want you to be a left tackle, we feel like you can make money there. And at the moment, I wasn't that mature and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to, be a defensive guy, do all this, and then, it worked out for the better. He kind of pulled me to the side, had me start watching film alone with him, teaching me how to do it and showing me guys that he coached at Oklahoma who are now at the next level, and said, just being aggressive and letting people be able to pinpoint and see what you're doing out there will take you further than something that you think you kind of want to do.
Yeah, so if you just joined us and you're listening, the key takeaway in this first segment is watching film and then understanding the importance of watching film and where that can take your game to. Talk to me about goals. What are some of your current goals on and off the field?
First and foremost is just to stay healthy. Physically and mentally. You want your mind to be just as healthy as your body because that'll help you get a long way. I got some big goals planned. I've been training all this time, so I'm looking to make all conference honors as well as, all American things. That's just always been in the back of my mind of what I want to do. So
I know you had an injury last year. Talk to me, what kind of injury did you have last year?
I broke my fibula. I believe I broke it in the third game. Probably irritated at the second game, clean break through the third. I ended up playing an extra 2 games on that broken leg. I knew something was up, but I didn't think it was that bad. I've never really experienced, breaks in my life. I kind of think it was just that drive and hunger that kept me pushing, knowing that I wanted to play and stuff like that. And we had trainers that were saying, it could be a high ankle sprain, stuff like that. So I went with it, kept going, and then it was just a point where my mom called and she was like, "You don't look like the same player that I watched last season. You need to have them go take you to the doctor, check it out." I used to kind of brush it off, and then I was like, all right, let me finally do it. And then, the doctor walked in and said, "I don't know how you were still playing and doing what you were doing, but you have a clean break, like through your fibula. So it's either you got to sit out," and that was, basically the end of my season. And, just that drive of still wanting to play. I still wanted to be out there. We were having a good season. I was doing really good, still performing, even though I had a broken leg. But it was thinking about the future. They said, if you go out there and play and you get hit the wrong way, this injury could be worse and, mess up your career. So that's when I decided to just take a break and try to go through that healing process. So.
Yeah, and then, this is a knock to some universities. Painkillers aren't going to do it all the time. You see kids, they get misdiagnosed all the time. This just happened to him. It goes on at Division I, FBS, FCS schools. I have an athlete the same way, misdiagnosed, always on painkillers. So I think the light at the end of the tunnel for him is he's petitioning to get his junior year back because of the misdiagnosis. How's that going for you?
I've been in close contact with my compliance director, and they've been telling me that it's getting closer to a decision. So hopefully, within this week I'll have something. If they approve it, that means I'll get an extra year to be able to play. But if not, I'll just have 1 season, but I'll still, give it all I have and, do what I got to do.
So you have the injury. Talk to us about some of the things that you've been doing to overcome the injury.
First coming out here, I still had the limp with my leg being swollen. And, I gave you the call and said, I'm ready to get back after it. I got a goal that I still have to accomplish. You know what I'm saying? So you introduced me to the different, electricity treatments and just different ways to massage my leg. And, we started off at step 1, base 1. We weren't into all the heavy jumping, heavy running. Started me off slow. If I felt the limp, you pulled me out just to say, we got a lot of time. We started this in March and
That's right.
January now. So just seeing that progress over time and how bad I wanted it and knowing how bad I wanted it to get me back to the point of, being healthy. So I feel like I'm back 100%, running strong, running hard, jumping, planting and all that. So.
Yeah, because going back to the summer when we were out on the football field, you were running really good. You could tell that the injury you had completely got over the injury. The pain had been dissolved. And now we're at a point to where he can drop off a 36-inch box. He can drop off a 30-inch box 15, 20 times, throughout a workout. So that's how I was able to tell when you can do those altitude drops where you can stick that landing and that ankle doesn't buckle. In prior conversations, we were talking about ankle stiffness. So he's fully healed himself, through a progressive and meticulous form of prehab, post-rehab. You've been cleared, and we've been able to further that with neuromuscular stimulation, him seeing a chiropractor, not the chiropractor, I'm sorry, massage therapist, and do different treatments. I know you went to Tiffin University. I want you to think back to high school. Reflect on your high school experience. What would you do different from an academic standpoint and a training standpoint?
When it's reflecting back to school, I started off at an inner city school, where a majority of the African American students are, and I guess the educational standpoint is kind of not as high as it is when you're out in the suburban. So when I transferred out my freshman year, it was kind of a big culture shock on just different students being around, as well as the educational standpoints. They're so high, so that kind of threw me off a bit. So if I can do it all over again, I feel like I would have tried to take the educational factor of school way more serious than I did. I dealt with a lot of procrastination and just kind of giving up because I thought it was too hard or I didn't feel like doing it. So now looking back on it, that's always when I talk to my friends and everything, I just say, man, I wish I would have just focused on school more. I wish I would have gave it an extra mile, when I didn't and stuff like that. But I mean, like I said, everything happens for a reason, and it's all working out still for me for the better. Like I said, I graduated college. In these last couple of semesters, I've been finishing with over 3.0. So, I mean, it's in everybody. You just gotta want it for yourself, just as bad as you want it, in sports.
That's right. And the interesting thing about what you're discussing and breaking down is that every 4.0 student that I've ever met in the last 10 years of training athletes, they all have tutors. And for some reason, in the inner city, you get looked down upon if you have a tutor. You're made to feel dumb, stupid, ignorant. Your friends make jokes about you. But when you go and talk to folks in other communities, the tutor is like their trainer. The tutor is like their strength coach. They're just strengthening the mind, giving them positive habits, giving them whatever help it is that they need, like you do with a coach, to get you by, to get your confidence to go up so you can master the lessons that's in front of you. So I can really appreciate that. If you're watching this, you really have to understand the importance of having tutors to get to the place you want to be in terms of a 4.0 GPA, 3.7, 3.9. I know one of our future guys that we'll have on, Brian Kelly, who went to University of San Diego, who went to Camas, tutors his whole high school career. Very important. Now, when you talk about your reflection on high school, what advice would you give to young athletes?
Number one is asking for help. Don't be afraid to reach out and seek help. Like you're saying, tutors and stuff like that. That's something I didn't do. I felt like, I think it was a lot of pride, that I didn't want to reach out and look like I was, weak or not understanding something. But at the end of the day, those people are there to help you and want to see you be great. So that's the number one thing I feel like, is to just reach out, seek help when needed, and just it'll all work out in the end.
So if you just joined the show, the important keys, like right here and right now, is you have to work with a tutor. Don't be afraid to work with a tutor, and definitely don't be afraid to ask for help. That's HELP in all caps. People are there to help you. People are around you. They want to help you succeed. You just have to take advantage of it. And what that means is, if you have negative energy around you, and it comes off subtly, you have to get those folks away from you. And sometimes it's immediate family members, if you can imagine that. Now, as we get into the fourth quarter, I know you have some goals that plan at the next level. I know before you came back to Portland for us to train, I think you, correct me if I'm wrong, you talked to the Detroit Lions and the Indianapolis Colts. They came up to Tiffin and you had a chance to meet with folks from those teams.
Yeah, that's true.
So tell us about your goals and aspirations of playing at the next level.
My goals in the future to get to that point is still bright. When I first went to a small Division II, I had doubts, still, upset about the grades and not, getting to the big D1 schools. I'm like, I don't know if NFL scouts or anybody will come find me at this small school, but when those different scouts started coming in and, talking to me, saying what they liked and, what they kind of look forward to seeing in the future, that kind of brought my hopes and stuff back up that, anything is possible, and that, if I keep working hard and going hard, more scouts are going to come in. So, I mean, that's just, I always got that chip on my shoulder. That's kind of how I like to play and how I move. It's a chip on my shoulder, and it's still something to prove. So that's kind of how I like to run with it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, straight up, if all you want to do, if you're a fool and you think D1 or bust, all you got to do is look at the rosters. They have D1 AA, FCS athletes, Division II, Division III, NAIA. In some cases, they got JUCO athletes, guys that messed up, made mistakes, fixed it, turned it around, and made it to a roster. So if you thinking D1 or bust, I'm telling you, you're a fool. Turn this off right now, because there's a lot of space on rosters. If you're good, they're going to find you, you know. And I played with guys Derek Holmes was a Division II athlete when we were at Portland State, and he got drafted in the 4th round. You know, and there's been numerous guys that come out of Portland State. Neil Lomax, you know, played with the Cardinals, you know, older quarterback. But there's a ton of examples that guys that went to Division II schools or 1AA schools, you know, what's his name? Cooper Kupp. That's with the Rams right now. You know, there we're talking about how did he get overlooked at a FBS school. So congratulations on your journey, man. I want you to keep going. I know we've been training. We've been doing a lot of work, you know, physically, mentally, and spiritually. You know, so before we close out, I want to ask you, why should an NFL team draft you?
Just I'm hungry, you know, and I'm willing to do what it takes, no matter what. I've seen guys get there that I went to school with, guys that I've played against, and I know that I'm just as talented as them. And, you know, with COVID and everything going on, this is where a lot of people have dropped off, took breaks, kicked back and relaxed. But, I mean, I've been grinding ever since. So.
Yeah, I mean, you called it the other day. You said Ohio State is going to whoop on Clemson. I have several boys that play for Ohio State, you know. Mm-hmm. So kudos to you. It's been a good interview. Go back, watch this over a few times. There's a lot of nuggets here. You're talking to a gentleman that, you know, you hear about it at the Division I level, grad transfers, but he's doing it at a Division II level. So it can be done. It's up to you. And the question you should be really asking yourself is, am I willing to bet everything on myself?
That's big.